Welcome everyone to the second of the 2018 NFL Draft Q&A videos. Remember, I'm going to do about one of these a week, so each week follow me on Twitter. Twitter handle's in the description box. And when I ask for them, give me them questions about the draft. That way we have more ways and more opportunities to connect about one of those things we really truly love. One of our favorite singular sporting events of the year, beyond question. Certainly is mine, especially the months and months of work that lead up to that 3 days late in April. So let's go ahead and get kicked off with these questions. See what you guys gave to me today. I didn't get to all of them because, again, I try not to make these Q&A videos too long. Nick Drowski, should the Ravens go offensive line at pick 16? And part of his question was revolving around the assumption that Calvin Ridley would not be there. Offensive line is on the offensive side of the ball, and is most certainly an area the Ravens should explore addressing in round one. Whether the fit and the talent level matches the pick remains to be seen, but that would definitely be a targeted place that they should go. Peter Jedra, would it make sense for the Vikings to trade up or trade down? I feel like they're in a place where they need quality over quantity. So if anything in this particular draft, maybe looking for a difference maker. They could stay put. Trading down, in theory, makes sense, especially since they're at the way back portion of round one. But I think they should explore trading up too if that right difference maker is there. AWiggy000, are there any can't-miss offensive linemen in this draft? I don't know if you could ever truly say, like, can't miss, unless you're trying to do some type of hot take stuff, which I'll do from a time or two. But I'll say this, for the interior linemen, especially the ones at the top, you're talking about Quentin Nelson, Isaiah Wynn, Will Hernandez, Billy Price. I don't see a bust amongst those four. I feel like all four of those guys are going to be very solid NFL players for a long time. So if you're talking about a place where you feel very safe about taking a guy and him panning out and him being a productive, quality player for you, those first few interior offensive linemen in this draft are a pretty good place to start. The Hype asks, could and will the Cleveland Browns draft Saquon Barkley at number 1? In theory, they could, especially because they might be afraid that Indianapolis is going to take him at number 3. And that's probably a viable concern at this point. That said, though, I don't think they can. Here's why. Ultimately, for the Cleveland Browns to be a successful organization, they must get that quarterback. And I think everybody believes at this point in time they're going to draft that quarterback. Now, you will hear those that will say, well, they should trade back from that pick, if anything, if they don't take Barkley, and just wait, let some of the other quarterbacks go, and then pick the guy that's left. No. While that might get you additional draft picks, the Cleveland Browns already have enough draft picks. They need to start connecting. They need to start hitting. They need to start making a difference. They need to start getting impact players. And ultimately, when you're talking about the quarterback position, you don't want to be in a position where you've traded back and kind of sent the message that we didn't feel strong enough about this quarterback to take him number 1 overall. He's kind of the quarterback that fell into our laps. I think that's a bad message to send. The message should be, we have our quarterback at number 1 overall, whoever that may be, and that's the guy that we're going with. That is our dude. And then you figure out a way to get Saquon Barkley. I understand the thought process of Saquon Barkley no matter what, but I feel like it's not realistic to expect them to take a running back number 1 overall at this moment. I don't see it. Master Sawatari, better for the Bears in round 1, offense or defense? In an ideal world with the right player, it's offense. But ultimately, if the superior talent is there on the defensive side of the ball, then you must go defense. For the Chicago Bears, they have far too many needs still on both sides of the ball from a talent and roster standpoint to sit there and get pigeonholed into saying, we've got to take this guy, we've got to take this guy. No, you don't. You've got to take the best player available, regardless of position, perhaps outside of the quarterback position and maybe the running back position. Okay, there are a couple of positions. But for the most part, what I said holds true. If Quentin Nelson's there, hallelujah, take him. If Bradley Chubb is somehow there, hallelujah, take him. If a Minkah Fitzpatrick, Derwin James is there, think about it. You might not take him. But a Tremaine Edmonds, a Roquan Smith, take them, take them, take them. Because those guys can have an even bigger impact potential than anybody else that you would take on the offensive side of the ball. Do you reach a little for Ridley, or do you get one of those studs on defense? Is what it comes down to. I think you get the stud, personally. Matthew Choi. What position should the Raiders prioritize in the draft? Defensive line or middle linebacker? Middle linebacker. It feels like they really need a difference maker at the second level of that defense, and they should, for all intents and purposes, be in a position to be able to get one of those guys, potentially. Although with Chicago sitting at 8, and if Oakland loses the coin flip at the Combine to the 49ers, and the Niners get that 9th pick and the Raiders get that 10th pick, they could potentially miss out on both of them. I'm talking about Edmonds and Roquan Smith. Middle linebacker should be the priority, but defensive line I still feel like is a position they could potentially address in round 1. Josh Brose. Best fit for the big 3 quarterbacks, Darnold, Rosen, and Mayfield. I didn't realize they were automatically the big 3 quarterbacks, but hey, whatever. So Darnold, Rosen, and Mayfield, best fits for the 3 of them. I feel like Darnold's best fit is in New York. Rosen's best fit might be Arizona, the Chargers. Mayfield's best fit is probably the Denver Broncos, if they went the rookie quarterback path. Marshall McDonald, unluckiest quarterback bust of all time. David Carr, 2002, coming into a brand new expansion franchise, lacking talent around him, a team that didn't get the offensive line position right. Early on in his career, just kept drafting defensive linemen every damn year. Granted, you had Andre Johnson in 2003. That most certainly didn't hurt. But I always felt like he got kind of a raw deal. I don't know if he ever had that level of talent, but it wasn't like he was put in a good situation, that's for sure. So I feel like his circumstances, his situation, his environment early on in his career made him a bust. So I will go with David Carr. Elusive Tiger. Who would you take? Derwin James or Minkah Fitzpatrick? I don't know yet. I haven't graded both of those guys, so I truly don't know. And I feel like it depends on maybe what you want out of a safety, or if you feel like Minkah Fitzpatrick could play corner for you. That's what it'll come down to. But as of this moment, I don't have a formal opinion, and on the record statement yet. JC Celtics, thoughts on the Bears skipping wide receiver in round 1 and drafting Anthony Miller in round 2? I believe that's what I had him doing in the last mock draft. Pretty sure that's what I had. Didn't I have Tremaine Edmonds in round 1 and Anthony Miller in round 2? I'd be fine with that, especially if they got the right player on the offensive side of the ball in round 1. Or defensive side of the ball, round 1. You know, what I mean is again, talking about one of the linebackers or a Chubb or Fitzpatrick, somebody like that, or you get a Quentin Nelson. I'm okay with missing out on a wide receiver round 1. Mark Mazurek, who was a guy who was a surprise bust in a draft? Easy for me to say. I think every year you have a couple of guys they get very confident in, and then ultimately they just don't pan out, and you really wonder what kind of happened, and then you just feel like you were wrong, and sometimes just shit happens. And I won't say he was a total and complete bust, because he did have some length to his NFL career, but he most certainly was not the dude that he was hyped up to be as a part of that really good 2004 draft class, and that is Robert Gallery, the offensive tackle from Iowa who was drafted by the Raiders number 2 overall. This was supposed to be a new generation offensive tackle. This guy was supposed to be that dude. This guy was supposed to be a Hall of Famer for 10 years, then he goes on to do professional wrestlings. Well, neither of those things happened. Had some injuries, struggled early on in his career, got kicked inside to guard, kind of held his own there a little bit, but he never was that dude that I thought he would be. And you're talking about a guy that, where he was taken, he wasn't supposed to be a bust. He was taken 1 pick after Eli Manning and 1 pick before Larry Fitzgerald, who was taken 1 pick before Phillip Rivers. That was a really good draft in 2004, and Robert Gallery was one of those notable busts. Another one probably be going back to 89 again, another offensive tackle, Tony Mandrich. Maybe people didn't realize just how much gas he was on at Michigan State. But this was supposed to be, again, the new wave, new age NFL offensive tackle, and all that shit didn't happen. So there you go. But those would be the two that stand out to me as being big surprise busts. JT Evans. Any tight ends you could argue for going early in round 1? By early, I'm assuming you mean maybe top 16 picks, top 20 picks, somewhere in that range? No. The one I'd probably get the closest on might be Hayden Hurst, but the problem is he's already 25 years of age. So how high are teams going to want to take a guy that's already in his mid-20s? You know, Mark Andrews, a guy that I like, has type 1 diabetes. You know, and I'm surprised I haven't seen more scouting reports and more things talking about the fact that he's a type 1 diabetic who's had some previous close calls and scares with his type 1 diabetes. So that would probably hold him back. Dallas Goedert from South Dakota State, like him quite a bit too. I just don't know if he's a top 16 type of talent in terms of where teams are going to take him. Maybe more late round 1, early round 2. So at this moment, probably not. But we haven't gotten to the combine yet. And that could change. B-Nose Sports. Thoughts on the Notre Dame guys, Equinemius St. Brown, Quentin Nelson, and Mike McGlinchey. I've got plenty of thoughts on them that will be revealed to you when I do their individual scouting reports, so you'll have to check it out and watch it at that time. That is not avoiding his question. That is not dodging his question. That is called plugging content on the channel. That is called promoting future content, bitches. It sounds like that's a pretty good thing to do. So it'll be coming up soon, and you'll find out then. Vols fan, is Saquon Barkley better coming out of college than Ezekiel Elliott was? No. Ezekiel Elliott was better. Ezekiel Elliott was much better in terms of consistently breaking tackles, running through tackles, running with power. I thought his vision and patience were better. I didn't think he was much of a step below Saquon Barkley in terms of as a pass-catching weapon, and Zeke was far superior as a pass protector. So, you know, I've seen a couple of people with the really hot take that Barkley's a better prospect coming out than Elliott. No, he's not. No, he wasn't. Barkley's very good. I have a pretty high grade on him, but he won't be the number 1 player on my draft board. And if I recall correctly, Ezekiel Elliott was. Not the same level of prospect. Not quite. Zach Powers. Better for the Detroit Lions. Ronald Jones II or Darius Geis? I feel like Geis is. Because Jones might fall into a trap where they would utilize him similarly to Theo Riddick a little bit, whereas Geis would be a little bit of a different type of running back and would force them to change things systematically. So for what they do and what they need to do, I feel like maybe Darius Geis would be the better fit for them. Jake Richardson, when you saw Ed Reed at the U, did you know he was special? Yes. Not like all-time epic Hall of Fame, but I knew he was going to be a multiple-time Pro Bowler, probably an All-Pro at some point. I was always surprised he fell so far down in that, 2002 draft. Yeah, I think a lot of people were like me. They knew he was going to be something special. So that's not any magical revelation. Pete Webster, what's Isaiah Wynn's draft range? I think mid to late 20s through pick 35 to 38 or so. So late first, very early second round. And if a team thinks that he could play left tackle in the NFL at 6'2", 308 pounds, he might go top 15. A lot of teams are going to assume automatically that he can't play left tackle. There might be one or two that might say, he kind of reminds us of a Kelvin Beachum type of guy. We feel like he could possibly play tackle if he's solid in other areas to compensate for his lack of height, his lack of length. But even teams projecting him at guard or maybe his best NFL position being center might still look at him as a late first, early second round guy. That's where I think his draft range is. Dave Garcia, if both are there for the Bears, who would you want? Bradley Chubb or Quentin Nelson? Probably Quentin Nelson. Because I think Nelson would be a better fit for them, better fit for what they're going to do than Bradley Chubb would be from a defense schematical standpoint. Also, when looking at it, two pretty equivalent prospects, I will go with the offensive guy to help out Mitchell Trubisky over the potential Pro Bowl defensive player in Bradley Chubb, who I like a lot. I would go Quentin Nelson. Chris Lovern, is there any chance the Ravens draft a quarterback at 16? Probably not, but maybe there should be. I get what you're saying, talking about Flacco's age, his cap hit, the fact that he's not elite, but any stretch of the imagination. They're not going to, but maybe they should consider it, and maybe they will consider it, but I don't think they ultimately will. They won't pull the trigger. I don't feel like the timing, the situation, or the talent will be right there at that pick for them. And then closing us out, Josh Grantham. Thoughts on the potential for the Titans to double up on pass rushers in this draft? You're bringing in Vrabel. You're running a 3-4. Vrabel's a linebacker dude. I would expect one of those first two picks to be some type of linebacker or edge rusher. Maybe potentially both of them could be. Maybe the thought would be is that he could get more out of Kevin Dodd, hopefully. I would say less than 50-50, though, at this point. I don't know if they feel like it is such a big need or that the talent in terms of edge rushers is so superior in this draft class that they'd have to double up on them. I don't quite think that. I don't. Maybe they would draft one and go into free agency and find another depth guy to go with Morgan and Arakpo. Maybe. That would be what I would think. But anyways, that's it for this NFL Draft Q&A. Remember to check out all the scouting reports on this channel, the mock drafts. I just dropped one a couple of days ago. Remember, every week or so, I'll be doing another one of these NFL Draft Q&A videos. Lots of other great content still to come. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, because remember, the Schleg Daddy is the most underrated sports talker here on YouTube. Look it up. I am.